Okay, go for it.
I think that's an excellent question, Kim, that you just raised. Can we tolerate the um, the tremendous overpowering nature of reality? That is actually what the again, to take the Buddhist example, or two examples. The Buddhists say what you're calling the overpowering, overwhelming nature of reality is called the view by some Buddhists. They're initiated into the view as part of their training. Without that initiation and without practice in seeing the view, they can't tolerate it. Similarly, in the American Book of the Dead, E.J. Gold says that the after you die, there's a brief period in which the overwhelming quality of the universe, the true nature of reality is revealed to everyone. And if you can't tolerate it, then you're doomed to rebirth. Now, of course, most people can't even last for a fraction of a millisecond before the onslaught of reality. So it's part of the key to religious training, you could say, in some sense, is to have enough stability of mind to be able to tolerate what's ultimately real. But that is a vast, incredible accomplishment, I think, and one which most people haven't the slightest hope of attaining in the near-term future.
Yeah, how to do it.
Yeah. And that we should be grateful for our bodily filters, which protect us from the larger view, or at least mediate our experience of that larger view.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that we can improve and grow our capacity to embrace the larger view through practice. That there's something in us that is stretched, that is beyond the physical, that is being prepared for some existence beyond the physical, where there is the embrace and experience of a larger view. So there's an effective practice that extends beyond our life.
Absolutely.
That's an important point to bring out.
Yes, I agree.
That practice isn't just to die a good death, but that there's some inherent value. There's something that gets retained beyond our physical existence.
Well, that you might say, under in a variety of ways, is the whole ball game, the whole enchilada, is for each of the individual. To shift the metaphor to the Jewish metaphor, each of the individual sparks of the Godhead to realize its own true nature as part of the one, which is another way of saying that it becomes aware of the true nature of reality. That's what we're all trying to do. That's the path we're all on, is to become wise enough and strong enough to tolerate the billion-volt input of true nature of reality when we die, or when we're alive, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, so it makes me wonder whether realization is an aspect of life. I mean, is that something that life is setting us up for? That's part of its potential, is realizing and developing and growing our inherent potential as preparation for something larger.
Well, that's a very interesting question, and as I see it, there's a sort of a disconnect between the understanding of the development of life as seen through evolution and the understanding of life that you're expressing now, which is the inherent property of life to develop into ultra complex ways that enable it to have the kind of realization that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biological view of evolution is a good account, but it's limited. It doesn't take into account the ultimate nature of the human, or the ultimate nature of reality to express itself in more complex and ever transcending ways.
Well, it certainly, I mean, some humans have done it, right?
Yeah.
Buddhists have done it. Maybe others have done it.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about the rest of us?
I think we.
There's hope.
There's hope.
Uh-huh.
If they
True.
That's right. If it's been done, it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But why has there been? Clearly, it's a human capacity.
Yeah.
Why has it been so little exercised? And how did we evolutionarily acquire that capacity? What adaptive benefit would becoming enlightened give? How is it that we got that capacity in the first place? And why is it that we don't exercise it in the second place?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. What is the adaptive quality of enlightenment, from a biological perspective? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's part of it. Yes.
And why don't more people do it?
Exactly. I mean, from the perspective of performance of the Buddha, using his DNA, which he passed along, we're all a bunch of degenerates. Or I speak for myself. I'm a degenerate. Compared to the Buddha, yes. But we're the same species, which is I find remarkable.
Yeah,
and
yet,
you do share DNA.
We do.
That's it.
And yet Buddha, called himself very ordinary. Right? So he didn't say that his achievement or his experience was anything special. Wasn't extraordinary or beyond the reach of anyone else. He was simply pointing out what's possible.
So he was a very good teacher.
Yeah. But I would also invert the question, too, and not say so much how is enlightenment biologically useful, but how is biology useful for enlightenment?
Yeah, there seems to be a disconnect between those two.
Yeah, I mean, I would perceive enlightenment as the larger perspective, and biology as one aspect or expression of that.
Right.
Well, thinking along evolutionary lines, though, it really is curious the role that enlightenment does play in the evolutionary story.
Say more.
Well, I mean, that's the question I have. What is the role that enlightenment plays in the evolutionary story? It's basically the same question. I mean, you inverted it, but I'm still curious about that question. What is the adaptive quality?
Well, I think the drive for enlightenment, which is different than enlightenment itself, I think that's actually what life is expressing, is the drive towards enlightenment, towards fulfillment, towards expression, towards growth, towards transcendence of boundaries.
So a certain sense of merging?
Well,
Unity?
in religious traditions, they return to the one. But I think it's more than that. It's complexification, it's growth, it's expression. So these are properties that aren't simply. We're not just simply trying to, bail out of life, but we want to express it fully, and that full expression of life, sort of the emptying out of our potential, is, I would say, driven by the Enlightenment drive.
Well, when you say the full expression, the full expression of life, fully. Well, let me just ask you this other question.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a universe perspective, and we see the evolution of the universe through these different processes.
Mm-hmm.
What if you of, say, the universe and enlightenment?
So I'd say one drive.
Well, the universe doesn't have a drive, does it?
Well, I'd say it has a directionality.
Okay.
And one of the directionalities towards enlightenment for the universe is the expression of its implicit potential. In other words, the universe loves complexity, it loves diversity. You look around and you see 10 billion species on our planet. They're not all the same. So there's something inherent in life that it loves to express every single possibility.
And be creative.
And be creative. So life is inherently creative. And I would say that behind that, there is an expression towards what we're calling enlightenment, this desire to sort of transcend. It's always growing, not accepting any boundaries as ultimate, and pushing into every possible nook and cranny of every dimension and every possible kind of experience.
You could say that one thing that is actually happening in terms of Kim of the intelligence of what this has to do with the intelligence of the universe is that the few rare occasions of enlightenment in human history have served as a profound matrix for everything that followed them in terms of people's understanding of how to develop and what authentic living was, how to live the right way, how to develop, how to grow. I mean, the Buddha is still in charge. He's been dead for 2,500 years, but he's still basically in charge of the inner lives of millions upon millions of people. And even if he's not fully understood, so you have these, or the understandings of the rishis in prehistoric times in India is, I mean, it happened, maybe 5,000-10,000 years ago. But it's still acting today to create the matrix in which millions of people understand their world. So the Enlightenment drive actually creates enlightenment and sets it up in the physical world as a beacon of light in the future to work towards.